Our first reading today comes the epistle, 1st of John chapter 5, verses 1 to 6. Everyone who believes that Jesus is the Christ has been born of God, and everyone who loves the parent loves the child. By this we know that we love the children of God, when we love God and obey his commandments. For the love of God is this, that we obey his commandments. And his commandments are not burdensome, for whatever is born of God conquers the world. And this is the victory that conquers the world, our faith. Who is it that conquers the world but the one who believes that Jesus is the Son of God? This is the one who came by water and blood, Jesus Christ, not with water only, but with the water and the blood. And the Spirit is the one that testifies, for the Spirit is the truth. The second reading is from the Gospel of John, chapter 15, verses 9 to 17. As the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. I have said these things to you so that my joy may be in you, and that your joy may be complete. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. No one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends if you do what I command you. I do not call you servants any longer, because the servant does not know what the master is doing. But I have called you friends, because I have made known to you everything that I have heard from my Father. You did not choose me, but I chose you. And I appointed you to go and bear fruit, fruit that will last, so that the Father will give you whatever you ask him in my name. I am giving you these commandments so that you may love one another.
I've had people tell me that they just can't sing. And invariably the story will start something like this. When I was in grade 1, I was in the junior singing group. I was so out of tune, the teacher made me just mouth the words. They talk about how terrible it felt to be excluded from the classroom singing or from the school choir. Others of us remember the terror of that side choosing in games at school. Usually the two most popular, most athletic boys were chosen as team leaders, and they would stand out the front. All us kids would gather around, and one by one sides would be chosen. And there you would be, the odd one out, the only one not played to pick on a picked to play on a team. Then one of the leaders finally relents and says, "Oh yeah, all right, you can join our team." But because you're small and uncoordinated, you sit most of the time out of the game. Or else if you are in the game, the star of the team hovers around you all the time, grabbing the ball whenever it comes your way. Most of us can think of experiences in our lives of what it means to be left out, of what it feels like to be excluded. And it makes me wonder, are there ways that we exclude people? Can it be by the way we've said something? Can it be that something's been misunderstood? Could it be that even just by a look, we've helped someone to feel excluded when that may not have been our intention, or it may have been? And it begs the question, how can we as a community become more aware of the needs of others? Become more inclusive? And who is it that we include? Who is it that we exclude? What does it mean to actually belong to the church? Well, you see, the problem of inclusive understandings is not unique to our present age. It's not some current subversive campaign to bring about change no matter what. It's actually not some feminist critique of the hierarchy. It's something that goes right back to the time of Jesus. The early church itself struggled with how to maintain their identity as a community, and with whom and how to include newcomers. The early Christians grew up as a sect, if you like, within the Jewish community. What did it mean to be God's people in this way, doing the things they were doing within the context of the Jewish community that they belonged to? And what did it mean for new people to join them? People who weren't even Jews, the Greeks, the Gentiles, others outside of their faith. What did it mean to include them? It was a struggle that they had to work through time and time again. Their little community, just a tiny little sect of people, an insignificant branch of the Jewish faith, even though they maintained their ties to the synagogue, more and more and over time, they felt themselves on the edge, excluded. And now, as they began to move throughout the world around them, throughout the Greek world, they needed to work out what it meant to be God's people. Do they just keep to their Jewish traditions alone? Do they only adhere to Jewish law? Or do they begin to change? One of the greatest challenges for us as a community of God's people is, how do we live out this love? This love that's talked about so often, and particularly today with our readings focusing so heavily on love. We need to remember that love is not a noun, it's a verb. Love is not something we just think about, it's something we do. It's an action, a way of being. Those early Christians struggled with what it meant to love one another as Jesus had loved them. And that same struggle, I guess, that same experience is true for us. What does it mean to love? What does it mean to love others as God loves us? Does love mean we just accept whatever goes? Does love mean that anything's okay? How do we work out what's right and what's wrong? How do we work out the correct way to respond? And the thing is, there is no easy answer. It's something that needs to be worked out again and again. This love to which we are called is a call to friendship, to companionship, to walk alongside, to abide with, to live within each other as we live within God's love, to know that God's love is deep within us and flowing out, challenging us, changing us, supporting us, growing us. It's not a call to simply love the lovable or the cuddly or the beautiful or the wealthy. It's a call to love those whom God has chosen. And God chooses us all. And that's not easy, because we like to put boundaries on God's love. Some people like to put boundaries on God's love even more than we do. Somehow we get this idea that God's love is just for this group of people and not for anyone else. But the thing about this love is that it just keeps expanding and growing. No matter how much we might try to constrain it, it overflows. It pours out and occurs in places we would least expect it. Many of us will have experiences in our lives that will challenge our understanding of love. Many of us will have experiences that make us even question God's love. Many of us will wonder what it means to live out this love? What does it mean to abide, to live, to remain in God's love? In contrast to the image of master and slaves, Jesus refers to the disciples as friends, or a more literal translation would be loved ones. Jesus has shared everything he knows with the disciples, forging a relationship that's intertwined with God's abiding presence. Within God's love, Jesus and the disciples are friends, loved ones, together, no matter what. And how many of us have experienced how good it is, even today as you came to church, to experience the love of others. It might be in celebrating a great event. It might be in sharing how each other's going. It might simply be in walking the journey with another. All of those are experiences of God's love. On this day, on Mother's Day, is also a time when we have the opportunity to think about those people who have mothered us, who have in many ways helped us to grow, helped us to change, made us the person we are today. It might be that we need to think about the ways in which we continue to mother others. What does that mean? What does it mean to share that love? Each of us on this day is called to make our hearts open to those whose presence might even disturb our peace and assumptions. Each one of us, every moment that we come together in worship, is an opportunity for God to speak to us. But it's not just here. It's not only as we share around the Lord's table, but it's also as we share a cuppa with each other. It's as we walk out into the car park. It's as we go about our lives, as we go down the shops, as we go to work, as we simply care for our families. Whatever it might be that we're called to do, there's an opportunity to experience that ever-growing love again. The most surprising thing is when we find ourselves loved by someone we never thought would be possible. Many of us in our lives have experienced times where love is broken, where love seems to end, and we wonder how we will go on. And then something happens in the most surprising way. Sometimes, maybe even most very often, when we least expect it, love comes into our lives again. And what does that experience do to us? What does that experience do when we discover ourselves loved? We grow, we expand, our hearts are filled in a way we never thought was possible. What was died and shriveled up begins to open up and blossom again. Each and every day, we have the opportunity to do that in another's life. We have an opportunity for that to be experienced in our own life as well. So today, as we talk about love, as we think about those who have loved us and cared for us, as we experience God's love that comes to us in bread and wine, may our hearts be opened and blooming and growing. May we share that deepening love within us. And may that love change us within us and around us forever. For friends, no matter where we might be today, the truth remains the same. We are loved.